Welcome to a sparkling new podcast from Mike Parry and Mike Graham. We're the two Mikes.
Actually, it sounds even better when you do it Dullsville, because when you try to be happy and excited and energetic, you sound pathetic.
Thanks.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The two Mikes on Talk Sport.
Do you know that trees in the Northern Hemisphere actually communicate with trees in the Southern Hemisphere through their roots? Because the root of a tree can go all the way around the world.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The Two Mikes and we're in for Colin Murray all week. It's another chapter in the saga of England's managerial history this morning as Sam Allardyce is officially unveiled as the next in line for a new era of optimism. Will he bring back Andy Carroll and Mark Noble? Is Wayne Rooney still going to be captain for his first game on September the 1st, a friendly against Croatia? Is it really a new dawn? We'll find out in just over an hour. 08717 223344. We want to hear from you, of course. You can predict what he might say, which could be very interesting indeed. We'll also keep you updated on the cricket for day 4 of England-Pakistan at Old Trafford. Also coming up on the show, it's heroes and villains, our choices from a very, very busy weekend here on Talk Sport. You're listening to The Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say that after some successful oral surgery, Mike Parry has returned, and the bad news is he's able to speak. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. I've really felt better on a Monday morning, really? I have to say. Yeah.
Well, you know why that is, don't you?
No.
Well, you've been off the sauce.
Well, I'm not excessive imbiber anyway, so that doesn't really make any difference.
That, yeah.
But no, I mean, it's been a pulsating weekend of sporting action. Yeah. And what a pulsating 3 hours we're going to have now, because of course, right in the middle of it, 11 o'clock, we will hear for the first time from Sam Allardyce, the man I nominated as England coach in his capacity as El Supremo of English football.
To be honest, it's very good of the FA, probably due to your earlier connections with them, to choose our show to unveil the new England manager.
Fantastic,
I think it shows great vision.
I had a word.
It shows great vision for a start, and it shows that maybe they do mean business after all.
Well, they were going to do it at 2:30 this afternoon, but I thought, well, really, you should do it at 11 o'clock because it gives them... I convinced them that you've got more time then for the general public to digest
exactly right.
the day.
Yeah, absolutely right. And, of course, we'll be talking to a couple of very seasoned journalists over the course of the next hour.
We certainly will.
About that particular situation, because one of them, Paul Hayward, is a guy who wrote in the Telegraph over the weekend, suggesting, I think, that Sam Allardyce is not really the man for the job.
No, not suggesting that, actually. It'd be interesting to talk to Paul. I mean, I know what you're saying, but the headline on his piece, Big Sam will be a good fit for a downgraded role. So I just want to talk to Paul just want him to explain what he means by the downgraded role, because if you read it the wrong way without reading the words below it, you might sort of think it's a backhanded compliment to Sam.
Well, I would say that it kind of was a backhanded compliment.
Well, we'll find out.
Is he saying basically that Sam Allardyce's role as manager will be not quite as, shall we say, all pervasive as Roy Hodgson's?
No, he's not saying that. He's really saying that after 17 attempts since Alf Ramsey, it hasn't quite worked with chasing superstar managers around the world.
Right.
You know, like, for instance, when Brian Barwick got on a plane and went off to, I think it was Portugal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
To try and find, what was his name? Big Phil.
Phil
Scolari,
yeah.
That's right. And that didn't work. But it's a very interesting piece.
In not a particularly secretive way, either.
No, I mean, with half of the world's press following him.
Yeah.
And, it's a great analytical piece. It'll be fascinating to talk to Paul about it just ahead of the fact that we're going to hear from Sam Allardyce and what his thoughts and his intentions are in the England job for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, the funny thing about this press conference, I suppose, is that the big question people are going to want to know the answer to is Wayne Rooney still going to be captain?
Well, I think he's already said he is.
Which looks like it's going to be the case, right? And if that is the case, but why? And secondly, is he going to bring back all these kind of West Ham, and I don't want to be unfair here, but as people would somehow describe them, cloggers, like Andy Carroll?
Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Well, that's what some fans fans believe. Yeah, well, that's what some fans believe.
Well, I don't think Sam Allardyce believes that.
No, he doesn't.
Because he has explained already his vision of what he wants. We know, the 5 portents of what he said. Make sure you don't concede goals first. If you score the first goal, you've got to hang on to it, because 80% of the time teams who score first win.
Yeah.
And I think he's explained his philosophy very well. So I object to you calling the...
I'm not calling them that.
No, you are.
No.
You just called them that.
No, I'm saying some people see them as that. I mean, Mark Noble and Andy Carroll, West Ham stalwarts, right, who have played for Sam Allardyce, who he has put great stock in the past, right? Now, he's a guy who favours having those kind of guys play.
Yep.
If that's the way he's going to play football for England, then fine. But I think people need to know if that's the indication and who's going to be going out of the team if he's bringing these kind of guys in.
Well, amongst your cloggers, as you have very unfairly called them...
I haven't called them that.
There is speculation he might be bringing back, for instance, Andros Townsend. He might bring back Jermaine Defoe.
Well, Jermaine Defoe should have gone to the Euros
exactly.
anyway.
And Danny Drinkwater. We think all 3 of those probably should have gone to Brazil anyway. Sorry, not to Brazil.
Well, they could have gone to Brazil if they wanted to.
They could have gone to Brazil
if they were in the Olympic
should have gone to
football
France
team.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly right.
So that's not bringing them back. That's saying maybe they should have. If they'd have been in the squad that had gone to France, perhaps we'd have done better.
Well, I don't know, actually. I think the dead hand of Hodgson would have pretty much ruined them as much as he ruined everybody else.
There's a new friendly been set up for September the 1st.
Yeah, against Croatia, right?
At Wembley.
It's only 3 days before the big game against Slovakia as well.
Yes, indeed.
Is that not a bit close?
Well, not really, because it's a warm-up for the real event, and I think it's a very shrewd thing to do.
But will he do, for example, what Hodgson never seemed to do, which was to pick the team that he's going to play against Slovakia to play against Croatia in a friendly? Or will he use it as a chance to do what most England managers do, which is to kind of try different people out?
Well, maybe he'll explain that today, but I mean, as it's his first opportunity to get a squad of international players together, I should imagine there'll be a little bit of experimentation between the first and the second halves.
Exactly right. Now, meanwhile, over in China, we've got the first Manchester derby ever to be played outside of Manchester.
Yes.
And it's not being played. Torrential rain, apparently.
This has all been a bit of a fiasco, isn't it? 2 Manchester clubs go to a place which, just to demonstrate how far away it is, it's plus 7 hours on. So it's like...
You're checking your timepiece.
Yeah, 10 past 5.
Have you brought a new watch in today, by the way?
I have.
Good.
Actually, yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll have a look at that later.
Yes,
watch of the day.
10 past 5 in the afternoon. To start off with, he lost his first game 4-1.
Jose Mourinho, you're talking about?
Yeah, Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah. Then the pitch has cut up so badly in the rain that he was very worried about it.
Well, even before it rained, they were worried about the pitch, weren't they?
And then it rained, it cut up. Now they've abandoned the game. Seems a long way to have gone for an abandoned game.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
And it once again brings into question the balance between raising revenues on these pre-season tours and what benefits the coach and the players.
Thing. I mean, it's all very well saying, it's for money and it brings in revenue to the clubs and all the rest of it, and yes, I'm sure that's true, but at some point or other, surely somebody will have to stand up and say, there's lots of places you can go for a pre-season tour. China is still not ready for football. It's not ready for prime-time football.
Well, China, in terms of a footballing country, is in its birth. China, is in terms of an economic country, is in its birth. I mean, everything that happens in China is new. And expanded.
Well, the Bird's Nest Stadium apparently isn't new enough.
Well, absolutely. But in new and expanding countries have great burgeoning economies, but sometimes fail to cope with the results of those burgeoning economies. And one of the results of those burgeoning economies is you throw together stadia and pitches and everything else very, very quickly because you've got the money and there's not time to mature them. We need to also examine exactly what you've been up to at the weekend.
Yes, we do.
Why was a dead fox found in your garden?
Well, I don't know.
Is this some sort of witchcraft in your part of the
I do
world?
wonder about that, you see, because last night, just before I was due to head back up to London, one of the kids came running again. There's a dead fox in the garden. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. How long's a dead fox been in the garden? Because, we've got a Labrador dog, and the dog has not been over to where the fox was.
No.
So either the thing had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and I examined it, and knowing a little bit about death, I could tell that it had been dead for a little while, but not completely.
Death's quite easy to spot.
Yeah, but
it's when the fox has rigor mortis.
Yeah, but I'm not. Actually, that's not true because, funnily enough, it was not. I don't want to go into too many details here, but you have to work out exactly how long it's been dead for.
It's not rigor mortified.
It had been dead for probably, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Oh,
2 or 3 hours.
What time was the discovery made?
The discovery made about 9 p.m.
Last night?
Yes.
Oh, so you think it died during the daytime?
Well, I think it died...
Was attacked by the lynx that escaped from the zoo
I don't
in the
know.
middle of the night?
I don't know. There were
what
no
predators
signs,
do foxes have?
There were no signs of injury.
What predators do foxes have?
Well,
How do foxes die?
I think foxes can only have the sort of predators that would be bigger than them.
Well, that's what I mean.
A dog, for example...
that crazy lynx that escaped from somewhere in the West Country hasn't made
that
its
was
way over
nowhere
to
near...
Sussex,
No, I don't think so, no.
Well, you never know.
Also, there were no signs of injury on the fox.
You told me that it was a long way away from a road.
Yeah, very long way.
So it couldn't have been struck by a car and
No.
limped to its deathbed?
Well, it could have done, but that would have been a long limp.
Was there any sign of blood?
No.
Well, there you go. You
No.
say he probably wasn't hit by a car.
There were sort of signs of... what shall we say? I mean, there was quite a lot of, blue bottles and things around it, so it had been there for a little while,
it's
but
a
not
real
a terribly long
mystery.
time. And when I picked it up,
Yeah.
it wasn't completely stiff.
You picked it up?
Yeah, of course I did, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, I was going to leave it
What did you
there.
do with it?
Well, I thought about burying it, first of all.
Yeah, well, you should have done. It's a
there was
decent
lots
Christian
of
thing
quotes
to do.
lots of quotes from Casino going on, like first hole I dug and all that kind of
Yes.
thing. But I decided, no, I don't want to do that because it's too strenuous.
So what did you do?
So I threw it over the hedge.
Into what?
Into a field. An adjoining
in
field.
undergrowth?
Yeah, basically.
Dear
Some
me.
nettles.
I don't know.
Well, I couldn't leave it in the garden because a dog would have probably tried to
I
eat
agree
it.
not, but I mean, you should have disposed of it in a decent Christian way. Did you wrap it in a
What do you mean,
plastic,
decent Christian way?
bag liner or something like that?
No.
Because now it'll be subject to all sorts of, pecking from birds and all that kind of stuff. That's horrible.
That's the natural order of things.
It's natural.
That's what would normally happen.
It's horrible. It might be natural, but it's not nice.
Yeah. Also, I want to talk to you about my tennis prowess as well.
Tennis prowess. I think anybody cares about that.
Yeah, I think it was a great day for me to suddenly re-establish myself as a great tennis player.
I spent a lot of the weekend watching Sir Ben Ainsley.
I thought you spent a lot of the weekend just lying in a sort of drug-induced state following your operation.
No.
Seen the time, by the way.
Racking up fantastic victories out at sea, okay?
Oh, what, Ainsley, yeah?
On the high seas.
Oh, yeah, could you see him with your binoculars? The way they trained on him.
I wouldn't need binoculars to see the boats coming out across Portsmouth Harbour. It's spectacular.
Right.
They're huge vehicles.
Yeah, I know, but you're not that near them,
vessels,
are you?
I mean. Huge vessels, eh?
You're not that near them, though.
Well, I'm pretty near. I see the men on the deck and everything,
Really?
pulling in all the ropes and all that kind of stuff.
Without binoculars?
Without
you see that?
binoculars, yeah.
Really?
But then when I get my binoculars trained on them, I mean, God, it's pitch perfect. Absolute pitch perfect.
Well, we'll talk some more about that coming up. We've got loads going on. We've also got heroes and villains, which is not winners and losers, but it's not that dissimilar. And, of course, we'll be keeping you updated on the cricket, which gets underway in about 15 minutes as well. This is Talk Sport. This is the two mics in for Colin Murray on TalkSport with a Wix half price on selected tiling and flooring with an extra 15% across the range when you buy online. And that offer ends on the 2nd of August. We will be taking loads of your calls, of course, on the Wix phone-in coming up a little bit later on. 08717 223344. Sam Allardyce comes before the press in about 45 minutes' time.
That's right.
And we'll see what he has to say.
Indeed.
A man who might have some idea of what he might be thinking about saying is Paul Hayward from The Telegraph, chief sports writer, of course. He did a piece over the weekend suggesting that the role of England manager is no longer the pinnacle of the game. I don't suppose too many people would argue with that, Paul, would they? Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't see how they could. I mean, a better question than should England have taken Sam Allardyce is should Sam Allardyce have taken the England job, because England have reached one final in 66 years, and it's a bit of a dead end for a manager.
You make a very good point, Paul, in your piece, which I read yesterday, in which you say that this huge salary is always the bait to tempt somebody into the England job, and that backs up the point you just made. Do they have to offer the bait of a huge salary to get somebody now to take on a job which has proved so hapless to the previous 16 incumbents?
Well, absolutely, Mike. I think the whole thing has become inflated. I mean, I've covered countless arrivals and departures of England managers. They've tried every nationality, they've tried every style of play, they've tried every philosophy in inverted commas, and basically England have got ideas way above their station. You have to look at their tournament record and say the job needs stripping of its mystique and its status and its cachet, and you need an English manager who understands the English game, the culture, the players, and who is going to cure the number one problem. The starting point for me is that in tournaments, England players give less than they are capable of. Players from other countries give more than they are apparently capable of. And until you solve that problem, you can't start arguing about philosophies and styles of play. You have to get this problem sorted.
I mean,
Okay,
people talk about the the great talent of England. They talked about the golden generation before with the likes of Lampard and Gerrard. You know, we supposedly had the youngest team at the Euros and a very talented team. And is that over the top then to describe them as talented?
No, I still think England do produce talented players, but The problem is, and I'm amazed the FA haven't studied this scientifically, the problem is in tournaments, isn't it? That's where it goes wrong. Forget friendlies, forget qualifiers, because England are fine, in those areas. It's when they get to tournaments that it goes wrong. And what is the pattern in the tournament stretching back to 1950, with the exception of 1966, of course, in London? What is the pattern that causes England teams and England players to underperform at tournaments? And until they get to grips with that problem, I don't think they'll ever make progress.
Paul, are you saying then that the FA, the panel of three, the three men who started talking ridiculously, as you've explained, the over-egging the job, they started talking ridiculously about going all around the world and talking to Jurgen Klinsmann, talking to Arsene Wenger, talk to this man, talk to people from rugby and all that. Do you think in the last sort of 10 days they've actually seen sense and they have literally now downgraded the job and said, no, let's make it much more simple, the selection process, than it's ever been in the past?
Yeah, I think, in fairness, the global element to the search this time around, Mike, was about getting someone with knowledge of Premier League football and English players. I think that's why they were sort of interested in Klinsmann. And if as I understand it, Arsene Wenger was nibbled at and said he wasn't remotely interested. I mean, again, there was some logic in going for Wenger, even though you knew he was going to say no. Absolutely knew he was going to say no. So what they ended up doing was coming back to the best of the British candidates, the English candidates, and that is Sam Allardyce.
How come, Paul, if you can work this out in your head, because you've covered football so comprehensively for so long, how come Sam Allardyce wasn't the candidate who was any good 10 years ago, but now is the ideal man?
Well, it's a good question, and I think it's because these decisions are made on delusions of grandeur. They're made on fashion. They're made on money. And do you remember the pursuit of Big Phil Scolari?
Oh, absolutely. We talked about it earlier. The most ridiculous, non-appointment of an England Supremo in history.
Yeah, and the idea that you could sort of go and pinch Brazil's World Cup winning manager, pay him £5 million a year, and hey presto, all the problems would be solved. I mean, those are the kind of delusions that have shaped the England setup, I think, for decades now. And
I agree.
And for my money, it's refreshing to see a realistic and sensible appointment, and an appointment of someone who, above all, will start to get the best out of players and won't tolerate, the type of thing that we saw against Iceland, which was a team capitulating when they had 72 minutes to get an equalising goal against a country of 330,000 people.
But throughout the piece that you wrote over the weekend, Paul, there's references to tournament football. Former England players saying that the biggest problem is that England just aren't any good at tournament football. I mean, it's the only thing they need to be good at, really, isn't it? I mean, so effectively, that's a massive failure. And you've said maybe there's a bit of the Eddie Jones about Sam Allardyce, and he'll get them to the point where they can play that way. I mean, are there similarities that you've seen?
Yes, I think so. I think you have to have, in an international management, you have to have intolerance of sort of weakness and half-heartedness. I remember, Terry Venables was very good at that when he made that opening speech to his England team in the mid-90s. He said, anybody who doesn't want to do this because it's hard work and sometimes it's not much fun, there's the door. Just leave. There's the door over there. And I think Sam Allardyce will spot the people who aren't really engaged, and he'll sort of lean on the people who really want to make something of it, something of playing for England. I mean, we shouldn't underestimate the size of the task, though, because those players in France will be scarred by the experience. Maybe some of the old pessimism and fatalism will settle in again with some of the younger players. They'll be thinking, Christ, playing for England's hard work, and look what it leads to. He's got to stop that happening. He's got to get these young players going again and get them to believe that they can actually do something worthwhile at a tournament, in this case, in Russia in 2 years' time.
The one overriding factor for me, Paul, which makes this a great appointment, is that Sam Allardyce is on record as having wanted this job for the last 10 years at least, and probably before that. When Capello was walking round in Italy and the phone rang and an interpreter said, you won't believe this, but it's the English FA offering you £5 million a year to, manage. He had never expressed the slightest desire to be England coach, and as you quite rightly have already said, somebody just sort of dropped the job on him.
Well, he sort of had 5 million reasons to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the old philosophy of throwing money at it and making making cosmetic appointments that make the chief executive at the time look good, because you can go to the public and say, look, we've captured Fabio Capello.
That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Who didn't even bother to learn proper English during the whole of the course he was England manager until they promised him another £1 million if he would go to English lessons or whatever.
Well, absolutely. And this business about Sam Allardyce not winning a trophy, well, you can go right back through the recent history of tournaments and find numerous coaches who didn't win major trophies with clubs. I mean, Joachim Löw, who won the last World Cup, is a good example with Germany. Now, and international football is a different discipline. It's a different business, and tournament football is not the Champions League. It's not the Premier League. You need a particular range of skills, as Chris Coleman demonstrated with Wales in France, and I think Sam Allardyce has probably got a lot of those skills.
But will he have the confidence and the backing of the FA to do perhaps what he may want to do, which is to bring the likes of Andy Carroll back into the fold, to bring Mark Noble in, maybe Jermaine Defoe, Andros Townsend, those guys whose names are being bandied about, and drop people like Harry Kane, drop people like Jack Wilshere, and take players who think they've got a right to play for England out of the picture?
Well, he's only on a one-tournament contract, of course, so it's he's got 2 years to get it right. But he might as well back himself from the outset while he's strong, while he's fresh, and just say this is what I'm going to do, and these are the people I'm going to trust. And I don't think he's just going to give up straight away on the players who underperformed in France. He'll give them another go. The likes of Harry Kane, for example, they're too good to abandon at this stage. But he has to get into their heads and say, whatever went wrong in France, that's you've got to put that behind you, and I need more from you. I expect more from you, and you need to go and show me that you're worth a place in the England team.
That's right. Can it ever be a part-time job, Paul? Because there's a lot of space in the England manager's calendar.
I think it can. I mean, it'll be interesting for him because we all know he's a training ground manager. He's a heavily involved manager, and he's going to have to get used to, as they all do, the discipline of long spaces between games, not having very long with the players, not having very long to impose his ideas. That frustrates a lot of people in international management, and he's going to have to get used to that pretty quickly.
Yeah, great stuff. Paul, listen, thank you very much indeed.
Paul.
We're going to leave it there because we're running late already, unfortunately, I'm afraid, Mr. Parry.
It's a very exciting subject.
It is a very exciting subject. You really keep yourself under wraps. I don't want your mouth exploding with these new polls that you've got in there.
That's true, yeah.
08717 223344 is the number to call us on. Is Sam Allardyce going to make any rapid and very, very meaningful changes to the England team? If so, as England fans, are you going to support them no matter what? This is Talk Sport. Sam Allardyce only minutes away, really, 20 minutes or so from doing his first press conference as England manager. This is, of course, the Wix phone-in, and we send a £100 Wix gift card to our best caller every day, Mr. Parry. All you've got to do is decide who it is. It's a very simple task. We're going to go straight to the phones now. 08717 223344. John is a Liverpool fan. John, very good morning to you.
Good morning, lads.
Yeah, what do you reckon, John?
Sam Allardyce, I'm absolutely pleased as punch about. I think he's a great manager, very underestimated what he does with a very limited team, and I think that he should just get rid of a lot of them. I don't think any of them are any good. He's a sort of manager that likes people, that's got a lot of steel and battles and passion, and I couldn't see any of that in the World Cup in one single player.
No, I totally agree with you there, mate. I'm absolutely on side for this. We've just spoken to Paul Hayward, distinguished journalist with The Telegraph. He said, actually, what the FA have done this time is they've got absolutely realistic. Instead of chasing exotically named managers who don't speak English around the world and offering them £5 million to come and do the job, we've now got real. And that, I think, gives us a chance of success.
Yeah, but it's only giving us a chance of success if he does it a different way. And I've got a text here. Listen to this, John, from someone who doesn't give his name. Oh, Stuart, sorry. He says, Jack Wilshere picks himself to play in the England team. Jack is far from the player who believes he has a divine right to be in the team. And I'm not singling him out, but there's a lot of players who play for England, John. Do you not get the sense who think that they should always be playing?
Yes, I agree totally. I really do. And seeing Sam's team, how we put a team together last year at Sunderland that everybody said was going to get relegated.
Yeah.
And everybody, there isn't one player in that team that's got any gumption. Far from it. They look fantastic at the end of the season. And I think he can do it. And I think he should just go for lesser players, as in lesser players that haven't cost a lot of money, that's got a little bit more gumption. We'll see how it goes, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, and the thing is, John, he has never had a collection of great players to work with. They've always been average players, with the greatest respect to teams like Bolton. This time, I think he will succeed with great players.
John, thanks very much indeed for your call. Let's talk to Dave, who's a Spurs fan. Dave, very good morning to you.
Oh, lads.
Yeah,
Dave.
What would you like to say, Dave?
Well, can I tell you 3 things really? 2 things quick. That was right to do that with the animal because I done it.
With the fox, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, thanks for that.
That was definitely what I think. And you make listen to the radio an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Getting on to what I want to say.
Yeah.
All right. It's been said that Sam. It's like a breath of fresh air to England management.
Yes.
You know, like instead of having the top players, the top managers, and what blah blah. Now we've got Sam Allardyce.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what about if we make it a doubly breath of fresh air?
Yeah.
Bring in Glenn Hoddle.
Well, that's up to Sam, isn't it?
It's up.
Well, it's just a
Would
suggestion.
Sam be interested in doing it? Because I think we've got to get over. We've got to get over now that it's up to one manager to get England to win tournaments.
Yeah.
And really, we should be forgetting that the managers are winning the tournament. It's the players now.
What would Glenn Hoddle bring to it, Dave?
He's been a manager.
Yeah, he has, and he was quite a successful England manager.
That's right, yeah. So he could, and he could help Sam in certain ways, whichever, I don't know, but he knows the way of...
Well, he's technically very good. Technically very good.
He is technically very good. Dave, thanks very much indeed for your call. Well, I mean, the thing about... I mean, Glenn Hoddle was on the Breakfast Show, of course, talking about, what he may or may not want to be doing in the future. And there are those who would say that Glenn Hoddle's had his chance and maybe isn't part... I mean, it looks very exciting that he's bringing Paul Clement with him, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because Paul Clement's got some very, very
Is Sammy Lee going to be part of his
Sammy Lee,
background
we're
team?
told, is going to be part of it. I presume we'll find out just after 11 o'clock. But I think Paul Clement is an interesting choice.
He's very interesting choice.
He's a guy he came from Real Madrid.
Absolutely,
he's been at Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, he had a bit of a...
He's the kind of unknown
misfiring
coach of football, isn't he?
He had a bit of a misfiring at... Was it Derby he was at for
Derby
a short
was there
time?
for a very short period of time.
He didn't really get given a chance.
But you see, again...
he's the kind of guy I think that you need to bring in who will bring a real breath of fresh air. To me, Glenn Hoddle is not really a breath of fresh air.
No, he's a breath of
stale air, for want of a better phrase.
Exactly, without
wishing to be unkind.
Unkind, but what I'm saying is he was England manager. I also think, Mike, that gives the image of going backwards rather than forwards.
Exactly.
Because, Glenn is a very able
never go
man.
back.
No, never go back. He's a very able man.
Exactly.
But I agree with you. He's got to unfold. He's got to lay his wares out on a table that we haven't seen before.
Yes.
Put it that way.
David from Durham's got some advice on the Fox front. He says you should get the Dolphins to do the Fox funeral. You might have been. You might remember that from last week.
Yeah.
Now this is Talk Sport. We got loads more coming up. Sam Allardyce, of course, live right here in his first press conference for England. Very, very shortly.
It's a wonderful night. You gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night. You gotta shake it from me.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Sam Allardyce coming up as the new England manager, unveiled in around about 10 minutes' time, right here live on Talk Sport. Now, though, we're going to go and find out what went wrong in China, because Neil Custis, of course, from The Sun, is out there trying to watch a Manchester derby, but it turns out it's been rained off.
Absolutely.
Neil, a very good morning to you, or should I say afternoon?
Late afternoon here. No, it's not so much rained off. It's just the past rain has just destroyed the pitch. The pitch isn't set up for football matches. I mean, they just don't play football in this stadium, and they've had 70 people working on the pitch for the past week. Even a Man City ground staff members being flown over to help them out with it. But it's just not conducive. They just can't do it. And given that they've sold about 50,000 tickets, which cost between about 60 quid and 250 quid, it's just incredible that the ICC organisers could have even not foreseen this.
Well, this is it. I mean, the thing is, as much as everybody says, of course, it's the commercial arms of the United and City organisations that decide China's a great place to go. But China simply is not really ready for prime time football, is it? I mean, when are people going to actually realise that?
Well, not at this time of the year. I mean, seriously, it's a pain walking 50 yards in Beijing. Never mind playing a football match.
Because of the smog.
You literally, the smog, the air quality, the heat. I mean, it's boiling hot, but you can never actually see the sun. I mean, it's just every time they come here, it's just too much. I mean, I don't know how they. But I understand that they've got to get to their fans worldwide and their sponsors and commercially and all that. I mean, they do have millions of fans in the Far East, but at this time of year to try and come out and prepare for a season and play a football match. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to. Neil, despite that, the whole purpose of this operation is a bonding one as well as anything else. So tell us, with your experience of all the managers you've seen come and go since Sir Alex at Old Trafford, what do you pick up on initially as the relationship between those Manchester United players and their new, very ebullient, very famous manager?
Well, I just think it's the appointment that we should have had 3 years ago, and it didn't happen. The guy, it seems like a seamless transition. That the bloke is comfortable with the Premier League, comfortable with English football, successful everywhere, and he will hopefully be able to unpick the damage done by Louis van Gaal, which was huge. And get Manchester United back to winning ways, but not just back to winning ways, but just back to playing football that doesn't send the nation to sleep.
Yeah, right. Now, our understanding is, Neil, you'll be able to tell us, I'm sure, that Manchester United are flying back later on today, I believe, and City is staying on to play Borussia Dortmund. But as a result of this cancellation of the game, there will not be a winner of the International Champions Cup. I mean, how confident will Jose Mourinho be that just flying all that way out and back will not have some kind of deleterious effect on the players?
Well, I mean, normally these tours, I've been on these tours for about 15, 16 years, and, they're brilliant in the sense, from a journalistic point of view, the where you travel to and places all around the world, and you don't actually realise how big Manchester United are particularly until you actually come to places like this. It's like going around with the Beatles. But preparation-wise, Van Gaal made sure this tour was only going to be a week long, where normally it's like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Certainly in the first summer David Moyes was in charge, we literally travelled the circumference of the world in miles to about 4 different countries to satisfy all sorts of sponsors and what have you. So, it is, the money they make from the sponsors and commercially and from people out in the Far East is huge. So they have to satisfy them to a certain extent. But physically for the players, it's just not good. But as for it having an effect on the start of the season, I don't think it will.
Yeah.
It might on us journalists, but not those players.
So already Jose's had a disappointing start to this tour, maybe, the 4-1 defeat by Borussia Dortmund. So what would he have done had the game gone ahead today, Neil, to put right whatever was wrong in the Borussia Dortmund game?
Well, to be fair, he hasn't had the players together very long. He's had a matter of days with them. Some have come back from the Euros, some have just come back from holiday. And as I say again, you no matter how fit you are, playing football in this country, in these conditions... Well,
same for the Germans, though, wasn't
it?
Same for the opposition.
Yeah, but they'd already played 3 or 4 games.
Right.
So not the same for them.
Yeah, it was exactly the same. Yeah.
Anyway, listen, Neil, I realise you're probably preparing to pack and come home again, but I just wanted to thank you for coming on because, of course, you might cast your mind back to the night of the Euros final between France and Portugal.
That's a bit
where
harsh.
Porky was full of the joys of spring and attacking you for being boring about the game.
Well, I couldn't understand it because I've known Mike for a long time.
Absolutely.
And he suddenly starts slaughtering me on
No.
It's a shocking thing. Well, I have to say, Neil, you're not the only person that wonders about that. Sometimes late on a Saturday night, they think, well, I thought I was quite good friends with Porky, but
I know. At one point I thought it was a parody account, but
most people think that.
No, Neil. Let me tell you, mate. I always say the man on the inside at Old Trafford, Neil Custis. You want to know what's going on at Manchester United? Give Neil a call. I've been saying that for years, and I still do. Thanks for joining us today, mate. It's been great.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks very much.
Neil Custis there from The Sun over in China saying that it's all been a bit of a waste of time, really, and you can't imagine what good it's done Jose Mourinho or the Manchester United team, or indeed Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, but we'll talk more about that coming up, of course, because we're moments away now from Sam Allardyce taking his first ever press conference as England manager. We're bringing it to you live right here on TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes, moments away from Sam Allardyce taking over as the England manager officially with his first press conference. But Stephen Darlington is not convinced. He sent us a text into 81089, Mr. Parry. He says, "Morning, Mike." He says, "I'm sure I've missed something as the much maligned Big Sam is now being painted as the saviour of English football. He was hounded out of West Ham, where they forced him to appoint Teddy as an attacking coach, but he's now good enough for England. Isn't it crazy?" Well, I mean, he does have a point, doesn't he?
No.
I mean, you are one of these guys that keeps going on and on and on about how great Sam Allardyce is.
Indeed.
And I mean, I don't say that you haven't done that for a long time.
Yes.
Because you did predict that he would save Sunderland, and I don't mind tipping my hat to you for that one.
Thank you.
However, you know, there's plenty of people who not very long ago were saying Sam Allardyce is possibly the worst example of the kind of English manager that only England can produce.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think...
So how's it changed?
I think common sense has kicked in. I think that the evidence of, you know... I thought Paul Hayward explained it extremely well.
Yeah.
That the FA hierarchy thought to prove that we're the greatest football association in the world, we'll go and bag the biggest name in the world.
Yeah.
And how do they bag him? Give him £6 million a year.
Yeah.
Double the salary that the next best paid coach got.
Yes.
It was bribery.
Right. Well, it was bribery, and also it didn't work. I mean, there's one thing to do the old bribery thing, but I mean, if you're going to bribe somebody, you want to make sure it works. We're just watching the action at St George's Park as we speak. As soon as something starts happening there,
is that one of our internal monitors? By the way?
That is one of our internal monitors.
Exactly,
All we can hope is that it doesn't go off in the middle of it, which it sometimes is prone to do. But I mean, the bottom line here is that I would like to paint you a picture of what's going to happen. Right, Mr. Glenn is going to appear. Mr. Ashworth, who was on Breakfast earlier, who said that he denied that Arsene Wenger was offered the job.
That's right.
Mr. Glenn will appear, and they'll talk about, you know, a great search that went on. He probably won't mention Steve Bruce, I wouldn't have thought, whose interview didn't go very well, apparently, because he didn't get the job. He'll talk about...
So he quit Hull instead.
So he quit Hull instead, yeah. Why has he done that, Bo? We haven't got to that yet. So then he'll say, you know, of course, you know, Sam Allardyce has got a great track record, which he hasn't, in terms of winning games. 39%, I think, is his win average, isn't it?
Like that,
they'll say Harry's the perfect man to take England on to the next level.
Yes.
And the great potential that England have. And that obviously qualification for the World Cup in Russia, terribly important.
I totally agree
It'll
with
be a
all
load of mealy-mouthed waffle. That's what it'll be.
What they'd be...
I promise you.
Well, no, I don't think they will. I think they've learned that let Sam speak for himself.
Really?
I mean, they couldn't let Mr. Capello speak for himself because they realised after they'd appointed Mr. Capello, he didn't actually speak English.
Well, I suspect his English, as we heard the other day, did we not, from one of his former players, it was David James, so actually his English is not bad at all.
Well, it's not bad now, but on the day they appointed him, I went to a lunch and Mr. Capello was there and he brought his own interpreter, who was Giancarlo, who worked for El Gazzetta.
Giancarlo?
Yeah, the Italian
Gazzetta
sports
dello
paper.
Sport.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
And he brought him along because he had to interpret.
Right.
What the guy I always feels sorry for in these scenarios is Mr. Glenn will come out, as you quite rightly say, and he'll probably sit in the middle. He say, I want to introduce, and then Sam will be sitting on his left, but on the right will be the poor press officer who's
and was that you in the previous incarnation?
No, I always
they
got
never actually
else.
let you out in front of that, did you?
Oh,
did
no,
they? No, it was never your decision.
Oh, no, I always designated somebody else to do it.
You
Because,
did?
No, I always designated somebody else to do it. I let David Davis do it because you look like a plank. You're sitting there. You
especially do.
No, I don't.
See how you look you've got.
And you sit there and you're not sure what your job is. Your job is to the very worst press officer.
Yeah, look, they're walking towards the camera. It looks like a scene from Reservoir Dogs.
It does, actually, yeah. The very worst press officer, the one who jumps in and says, "No, he's not here to answer questions on that." You know, push off. Will
well,
you?
this is it. They'll have to say that because of the difficulty, I think, with Roy Hodgson, who was clearly quite an awkward guy to manage.
Yeah,
if you were a press officer, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when he turned up for his last press conference and said, "I don't know why I'm here"?
I don't know why I'm here.
Which was possibly the worst thing he could have ever said after that dreadful performance against Iceland.
Yes,
but you know, they're going to have to try and present Sam Allardyce as
None of them
smiling,
got a tie on. None of them got a tie on. As they're walking towards the room where they're going to unveil.
What's wrong? Actually, one of them has got a tie on.
Yeah, the guy at the back's got a tie.
Yeah.
Mr. Glenn hasn't got a tie. He looks terribly casual.
Yeah.
Big Sam hasn't got a tie. I've never seen Big Sam without a tie before when he's worn a suit.
Why not?
That's interesting.
That's rubbish.
They're entering the room.
Yeah, they're entering the room. Can you imagine if you were still in charge of this clattering train, right?
Yes.
And what advice you'd be giving Sam Allardyce? What would be your words of advice?
You wouldn't have to. He's a great communicator, Sam. That's one of the reasons why he's got the job. He's been able to communicate his philosophy.
Well, they're about to sit down.
I think we should tune
in. And we'll go over to them as soon as we see them starting to utter words, which should be within moments. And in fact, here he is now.
Sam, many congratulations on being appointed England manager. Just tell us what it means to you.
Well, I think that from my point of view, what's hit me the most, of course, is the overwhelming support I've received from all areas. I think that over the last few days, not only the goodwill messages I've had from friends and people that I know in and outside the game, but also the nation as a whole. And I think that for me, that gives me a very warm feeling about taking up this new position today, and obviously very proud to be named the New England manager today, and really look forward to the task in hand and trying to qualify first for the World Cup and then move on from there.
Sam's delighted to be here, not as much as I'm delighted to have Sam here, and that's true for Dan and Amanda as well. We look for three things: strength of character, because, as Sam said, the pressure's great; tactical nous, and then someone who can inspire. You need all those things together, because look at the players or the teams that do well in these tournaments. They've got a strong team identity and high-quality players. So you need someone to bring those two together. His track record embodies that. Certainly the way that he impressed us at the various interviews we did, gave us great confidence that he wants to apply that to the international stage.
Style of play has always been it's always been a tag of for me that I can't shake, in terms of everybody thinks it's this style or that style. The style of play that's normally associated with me cannot be really associated with me when we spent all last year playing with Jermaine Defoe up front at 5'10". So I think that working on people's strengths is the main factor. We worked on Jermaine Defoe as a player that could not play up front on his own. That was it across the board. Jermaine Defoe cannot play up front on his own, Sam. What did Jermaine Defoe do? He played up front on his own all season with me. Scored 15 goals in the Premier League, 18 in total. So whatever people may tell me, it doesn't stop me from trying something else or trying to create another opportunity. And like I said, players who join us, I hope, will enjoy the opportunity to play and try and win. The years of experience that I've gained in all areas of the game, starting from a statistical basis. So you're accumulating data that is fact in terms of how you move forward. So when you accumulate data, it gives you an opportunity to make more and better decisions. And that data is collected by all the expertise in the area of your backroom staff. And then that gives you a profile or a picture of how you should set out your team to go and try and win. When you back that up against the opposition, you plan and prepare for each individual game for that particular game, and you get the lads ready to play, and then you review that game after, and you feed back, hopefully, as much information as you possibly can so the players can absorb it, and then we move on forward gradually from there. There's a huge amount of time to prepare at international level, which is a good thing for me. Not like the Premier League, which is, sort of day in and day out, and the overturn is very quickly. So that side of it can be done and obviously fed back to the players if and when. And like I say, creating a good environment is one of my key areas.
Sam Allardyce with his first press conference there, getting asked quite a few questions by quite a few what I would regard as relatively tame journalists. Mr. Parry, what did you make of that? Sum that up for us. What was the most exciting thing he said?
Well, look, I don't think they're tame journalists at all. It's a huge subject. What you're saying is, because you asked me whilst we were off air, what about the Wayne Rooney question?
Yeah, nobody seems to ask him about why, if he is going to stick with Wayne Rooney, he's going to do that. I mean, they're all asking him all these kind of detailed questions about what's your plan for the future.
Sure.
What did you tell the people at the interview?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a news trail running which says that when asked about whether Wayne Rooney will be captain in the future, the situation seems to be that he's responded in some way by saying it's too early to talk about that. So that issue hasn't yet come up. But look, just to sum up what he's been saying so far, he says that he thinks he's got the job because he is pragmatic. He says, and by pragmatic, what he means is, I look at the squad of players I've got, what they're capable of, who we're playing, and how to adopt those players to play against the opposition.
And he said quite a lot of things about Jermaine Defoe and how he got him to play at Sunderland and score 15 goals in the Premier League by proving thereby that he wasn't, one, a long ball merchant, and two, that he can make a player play in a position that he doesn't know he can play in.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. He emphasised several times that Jermaine Defoe is only 5'10" tall, whereas Andy Carroll is 6'4" tall, who he had at West Ham.
Right.
So what he's saying is, OK, I can play through the middle with a player 5'10" or 6'4", and they're both effective. Right. Jermaine Defoe scored 15 goals from him in the Premier League. League, 18 in all.
Yeah.
He says, I can change my style. He also says players should be flexible and adaptable, and you can tinker with the players when they come from the clubs to suit the opposition. He also, nice admission this, he said, I never went right to the top of the Premier League as a manager.
Yeah.
And he had said in the past he never felt he was given, the right opportunities at the big clubs. But what is most interesting, and I think this does sum up a lot of the character of the man, 12 months ago, he was sitting around on a beach thinking, what comes
in his
next?
villa, indeed.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
What comes next? What venture comes next?
Yeah.
So he thanks everybody at Sunderland for the opportunity to get back into football,
Yeah.
and then he says from there he was able to demonstrate how he can do the job.
Yeah.
So basically he's saying, I saved Sunderland, and I think that got me the job.
I'll tell you what I would say is that I'm already, and I'm not quite the flag waver for Big Sam as you are, but he's already a much more relaxed guy to talk to for all these journalists, isn't he? I mean, when you consider what Roy Hodgson used to be like, very stiff, would always sit there
very
as
chippy.
If, very chippy. I mean, I think he became more like that
Bridled
over
at all
years
sorts of questions
because he didn't like the questions that were being asked, and they're being quite soft on him.
Yeah.
I mean, the moment for me was when he said he didn't think England hit rock bottom.
Well, it's true,
which makes me worry slightly that we got further to go.
Well, no, I know you interpret it like that, but what he actually said was, he said England haven't hit rock bottom. He said, and I can turn things round. He said, and I turn things round very quickly. He said the most important thing is the players working, and the England elite players, which is a word you seem to have.
I don't
issue
like the
with.
word. No, I don't. I mean, I know people talk about elite athletes and elite, people at the top of their game, but I think part of the problem with the England football team and the players and the individuals is that they believe that they are elite.
Yeah.
And yes, they are obviously at the top end of their profession.
Sure.
But I think to keep referring to them as elite is wrong. It's not the right word.
It's one of these new ridiculous expressions in sport, and you talk about
I
elite
just don't
athletes,
like the word.
elite rowers. Now we talk about elite footballers. And just to sum it up, he is clearly very confident in the job, because he was asked, why do you think you're right for the job? He said, I think I fit the chair. Very good expression, that. What he means is, I feel comfortable in my own skin in this job. He also said, I will challenge the England teams that I pick to go out there and do it, but I will also be challenging myself. And then he made a very good point. He was asked about 10 years ago, you weren't right, you weren't deemed to be the right man for the job. Why are you now? He said, well, I've had a lot more experience in the last 10 years. And I think what he was really doing there, he was getting the FA out of jail, because somebody might say in the future, if he's successful, he should have appointed him 10 years ago. But what he said was, it's a very good point. He said, look, I've managed 5 clubs. Yeah. He said, and nobody else has managed 5 Premier League clubs. The wealth of experience I've had in those 10 years is enormous. And finally, he said, my strongest point is man management.
Yes.
And that's something Roy Hodgson didn't have.
That is something definitely England really, really need. And we want to hear from you out there, of course, because this is the Wicks phone in 08717 22 3344. Are you liking what you're hearing from Sam Allardyce?
I am.
He seems much more relaxed than Roy Hodgson ever was.
Sam's a winner.
He seems to know a little bit more about how to deal with the old journalists than Roy Hodgson did. But we want to hear your views. Does it sound like the same old claptrap?
Let's hear it for Sam.
Or is it definitely something new? 08717 22 3344. Colin is a Spurs fan. Hi, Colin.
Good morning. Good morning.
What would you like to say?
I want to say, first of all, good morning to Talk Sport. First time I've been on. Fabulous show you have. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
It's very
Welcome.
kind of you.
Yeah. Now, let's get down to brass tacks.
Yes.
I've been watching England for God knows since I've been born. So it's over. I'm 50-something now, and no one gives the girls out. But we could do better. It should be better. And Sam is an Englishman, and we need an Englishman. I think the players will respond to an Englishman better. Although I didn't like your last manager.
Roy Hodgson. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. He didn't bring out the.
So,
best
are you saying, Colin, that listening to what you've heard this morning so far, you're encourage, you're inspired?
I'm inspired, and it's a good thing, because I think the young players will play great for us, for Sam. They'll bring out the best. Look at Defoe. Look at Defoe. We had Defoe in his not in his prime, but his late years.
Yeah.
And he brought wonders out with him. He brought absolute one. He brought a player that was supposed to be on the edges of grass. He's going out, play your testimonial. And look at him. He brought Sunderland up.
He did.
Fantastic.
Absolutely
Fantastic.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't see where he's going to. I know there's knockers out there, but you know what? Let's encourage the guy.
Indeed, I totally agree, Colin. Well said.
All right, now we're going to go to Alan in a moment. Let me just read you a couple of things. Here's one from Gabriel. He says, still not 100% sure. Sam sounded like a regional sales rep for an office supplies company.
No, he didn't to me.
Which has been a little unfair, I suppose.
I think
here's one from Jazzy, who says, Big Sam actually makes me want to book my ticket to Russia, to be honest, compared to Roy, who made me want to go to drink. I can understand why you would feel a little bit more inspired by Mr. Allardyce than Mr. Hodgson.
And you're absolutely right, and so is Steve, an earlier caller, about the rock bottom. And Michael, for instance, says, surely not a qualifying for a tournament is more rock bottom than being knocked out by Iceland, isn't it?
I suppose so.
Yeah.
So we have got further to go.
Exactly, yeah.
Alan's a Liverpool fan. Alan, very good morning to you.
Morning, how you doing?
Yeah, very well. What would you like to say?
It's actually regarding that. I mean, we're not at rock bottom. We qualified from the group for a start.
Yeah.
And we've
almost everyone qualified from the group, though, didn't they?
No, people went out.
Well, yeah, one team, like 4 teams went out who didn't come third.
Yeah, but we were close to going out, were we not?
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't have been good, would it?
No, that would be rock bottom. So we're not at rock bottom yet, so yeah, there is further to go. But with Allardyce, I think any egos that our boys have will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
He will make them work for it. He won't stand around and just say, oh, yeah, you play for so much and you earn so much, you can play. You'll be like, unless you work, you're gone.
Right. I mean, and how is he going to be able to do that, though, Alan? Because, you know, he may be capable of doing that on his own, but basically you've got these players who are for 7/10 of the season, or maybe 8/10 of the season, with their clubs, with their agents, walking around with their headphones on, not listening to anybody, driving around in their Lamborghinis, not really interacting with anybody. You know, what difference does it make what he says to them once every sort of 3 or 4 months when he meets up with them?
Do you think he'll let them continue doing that, though? I think he'll be banning and all that type of stuff. There'll be more interaction. He's a bit more old school. He's got all the new developments that he knows about.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're absolutely right. I think he will give them a sense of self-worth and a sense of self-discipline, which I don't think they had at Roy Hodgson. You know, Roy Hodgson didn't really tell them...
individuals than a team.
Sorry?
They're more about the individual than the team at the moment. They don't understand what the team is.
Yeah, well, they need to understand their team responsibilities, and I think Sam will do that.
Yeah.
I think he'll imbue that into them.
But isn't part of that problem, though, the fact that... Thanks, Alan, for your call. Isn't part of the problem there, though, Mike, that as I said to Alan there, I mean, the players themselves spend so much time either in their own company, in the company of their families, living in mansions, driving around in luxury cars, walking out of stadiums all over the world with headphones on, not listening to anybody. And, you know, how is he going to be able to change that?
Well, because I think he will warm towards players who don't have that sort of attitude to life. And one of them, for instance, is Defoe. Yeah. Defoe is a teetotaler. He's a man who spends most of his time keeping his body in shape so he can play football.
A lot of people saying he's only 5'7", right? And asking why Sam Allardyce has said he's 5'10".
He's not.
You wouldn't get that wrong, would he?
No, he's not 5'7". He is 5'10". But compared to a lot of the players he plays with, he looks like 5'7". Because footballers are giants these days.
Indeed.
But what I'm saying is, Sam will warm towards players, and I would say Ross Barkley is one of these, and I wouldn't like he's an Everton player, but he is very, very unconscious of the elevated position he has in life. He doesn't regard himself as a star footballer. You won't find Ross Barkley, for instance, you know, hiring six rooms.
I'm not having you turn this into some kind of Everton love fest.
I'm not. I'm giving you an example.
Yeah, just picked out of the air.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Because it's one I know about. You don't find him hiring 6 rooms at a London hotel after an England game so his mates can come round and entertain friends and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, he might as well do because he's not playing, is he?
He will concentrate on the work. Well, I think he will start playing under Sam because Sam has mentioned already that he thinks he's an excellent player.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. The New England manager Sam Allardyce has been speaking in the last hour, and this is what he had to say when he was asked what England's style will be like in his management style.
I think that choosing styles or systems depends on the players available and then depends on who we're playing. And my coaching technique is to try and give the players the opportunity to win a football match. Wherever they're playing, whether it be home or away, whether it be at Wembley or not at Wembley, and to make them aware of the opposition, which may change the style of how we play. The individuals, of course, and collectively as a team is very important. I think the bonding of the team is exceptionally important, while we're all together, trying to create a good team spirit and have some fun.
This is Talk Sport. That was Sam Allardyce. We were carrying his first press conference live right here, of course. Correction here from Alan in Woking, who says Sam Allardyce was not sacked by West Ham. West Ham simply didn't renew his contract. One win in his last 21 games ensured that his contract wasn't renewed. Had West Ham not been mathematically safe, that would have been a sackable situation, and he would have been sacked at any other club. Alan, I'm not sure what your point is here.
No,
I think
exactly.
it's being slightly pedantic.
They didn't exactly chase him down, the East End
so
of
what
London.
he's saying is that he had one win.
To sign a new contract.
Yeah, they had one win in his last 21 games. I mean, in some countries and in some football clubs and also in some employment situations, not having your contract renewed is the same as being sacked.
No, of course it is.
Isn't it?
I mean, the situation exists that if you're valuable, you are normally offered a new contract way before the old one expires.
Yeah.
As it happened, it was convenient to both West Ham and Sam Allardyce to let the contract run out.
And do you know how
Simple
some
as
people think Google is the answer to everything?
Yes.
A couple of people have now sent me texts saying, just Google Jermaine Defoe, he's 5'7.5".
Oh, yeah?
Do you really think his manager would get his height wrong?
That's right.
He says he's 5'10".
Yeah.
I think we'll go with that.
I think
Let's talk to Alex, who's a Brighton fan. Alex, a very good morning to you. What would you like to say?
Morning, chap.
Yeah.
Morning, chap. I'm staggered, to be honest with you, by some of the people that have rung in your show today. And the one that really made me pull over was the fella who come on saying, he's on £5 million a year, and then you corrected him and said it's 2.5. And he's on £2.5 million a year. I can only assume that bloke's skint, because what does he expect him to be paid? 25 grand a year plus bank holidays.
Yeah,
It's a massive job. It's a massive job. He's a manager of the national team. He's on half what the last bloke was on. He was absolutely useless.
That's
right.
Fabio Capello was on triple that?
Yeah,
he's on 6.
Well, the bottom line is, Alex, I mean, nobody cares how much he's being paid if he's successful.
Exactly.
If he's successful, but if he's not successful, that's when it becomes an issue.
Well, what you've got here is you've got a bloke who's wanted this job his entire career. It's the one thing he wants to do more than anything else, to the point where he has caveats written into every single contract, because this is the job he's always wanted. You've got a guy who wants the job, regardless of what you pay him. He wants it because he's English. He wants to be successful. He wants the team to be successful. It's a pinnacle of his career. Now, I would much rather have that. I don't care what you pay him. I'd much rather have a man like that in charge who's got the passion and the desire and the hunger, to make the team a success, rather than some mercenary who, did okay here, did okay there, always, and you also get people who say, oh, well, he's not won anything. What does that matter?
Yeah.
We've had managers,
Well, it sounds like he's the perfect manager then. He's the perfect manager for a team that hasn't won anything, isn't he?
Very unfair. Very unfair.
We appointed Roy Hodgson, and everyone said, "Yeah, but he's managed internationally before, He's managed, countries
Switzerland.
internationally." Yeah, and what happened? He was absolutely useless.
Yeah, and he was useless.
Give him a break.
And he continued to be useless, and the FA still continued to renew his contract. It was a pathetic situation.
And do you know what? He also turned into. You look at his post-match interviews. You look at him in press conferences.
Yeah.
He turned into quite a nasty, spiteful, arrogant man.
He did. Chippy
and he had no right whatsoever, because he'd won nothing.
Yeah.
He was incapable of managing in a tournament. Our showings were embarrassing.
They were.
It made you hark back to the golden days of Sven. Quite frankly,
it certainly did. He was chippy and dismissive.
I think you're absolutely right. Thanks
yeah.
very much indeed, Alex. There, we're going to go to Mike, to Man United fan. I think the interesting thing was about Sam Allardyce as well.
Yes.
And as I say, I'm not a cheerleader for him in the same way that you are.
Yes.
Is that he has a bit more of a sense of pride, I think, than somebody like Hodgson.
Well, he wanted the job.
If you were Roy Hodgson, you'd be embarrassed to go in front of a team of journalists after some of those displays. Whereas Sam, I think, will talk to the players and say at half time and go, I'm not going in front of a bunch of journalists if you don't win this game.
That's right.
And he'll have a bit of fire about it.
But I don't think he'll have embarrassing situations in front of journalists, because I think whatever you can say about Sam, if England do lose games, and I hope they don't, they won't lose them in the way that England lost games
Possibly
under Roy
not.
Hodgson.
Let's talk to
confusion, lack of interest, a seemingly inappropriate layout of the team.
No apparent sort of end game. Let's talk to Mike, who's in Manchester. Mike, a very good morning to you.
Morning, lads. I tell you what, if England are not at rock bottom now we've got Fred Flintstone as the manager. We certainly will be in about a year's time.
Fred Flintstone? That's very harsh, Mike. Why are you calling him that?
Listen, well, he's like the new Mike Bassett, isn't he? Listen,
well, I tell you what, Sammy Lee could be Barney Rubble, couldn't he?
Well, he could be, yeah. But listen, the reason why Sam Allardyce has never been offered a top job is because he's a rubbish manager.
Oh, what nonsense!
No, listen, hang on. Let me finish. He's a rubbish manager. He did all right at Bolton. He played rubbish football. He can't manage top players.
How do you know? How do you know he can't manage top players?
Let him talk. Because he's never done it.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Because he's only.
But he says he has managed top players though. He says he has managed top players.
No, he says he can.
Hang on. He's talking about Jermaine Defoe. Jermaine Defoe is probably one of the most useless strikers. Which is why.
Have you ever put sherry on your cornflakes today, Mike? Jermaine Defoe's a great player.
I suppose next you're going to tell me. I suppose next you're going to tell us, Mike, that he should keep Wayne Rooney as captain, are you?
Well, no. The thing is, that you look at Jermaine Defoe's record. He only ever scores goals when they're not important. I mean, they win 4-0. He might.
Well, I don't think Sunderland fans would agree. He kept them up last year, didn't he?
Yeah, they're all important goals. They're very important goals.
Yeah, I'm afraid. So he's conceded that one.
Yeah,
Mike.
he only ever scores goals.
A sticky wicket on this one.
He only ever scores goals when he's got a football shirt on. Yeah, go on.
Can I just say though, Sam Allardyce, I think his style of play, what he'll be like a kid in the sweet shop. And he's already one of the things he said there was that the players they should be adaptable. Now, I disagree because I think the biggest problem with England managers, with all the England managers, is that what they've always tried to do is they tried to get the best 11 players and play them in the wrong positions. If you got the best 11 players in the world, like Ronaldo, Messi, Pogba, and played them all out of position, you'd have a rubbish team.
I don't think so.
It's not about...
That's rubbish. Yeah, it's absolutely... You've gone mad, Mike.
Hey,
you've gone mad.
What did you think of Roy Hodgson, Mike?
So put Ronaldo, Messi, and Pogba. So put Ronaldo and Messi somewhere in the midfield. Put Pogba back at right back, and put somebody else up front. Maybe, I don't know. Who'd you fancy putting up as a striker? David De Gea up front. They'd still beat Manchester United as they are at the moment.
Yeah, they probably would do actually, but that's no indictment, is it? We just got rid of that man.
I mean,
and what about Roy Hodgson,
Mike?
Mike?
Good news you've had from China is the game's been cancelled.
Mike, what about Roy Hodgson? What do you think of him?
Well, I'll tell you what. When Roy Hodgson first
seen the time, by the way, Mike.
I thought he was going to be all right, but it's like you just said. He became an arrogant.
So he was rubbish, yeah.
Arrogant.
No, you said that.
And I think Sam Allardyce could be the same, you know. But
you've got very high standards, Mike.
So hang on.
Very high standards.
So when Roy Hodgson got the job, hang on.
One more thing.
So when Roy Hodgson, hang on 1 second. So when Roy Hodgson got the job, you said he'd be great. Now that Sam Allardyce has got the job, you said he'd be rubbish. So why should we take your word for anything?
No, I said he might be all right. I didn't say he'd be great, but one of the things I would have said to Sam Allardyce if I was interviewing him, I would have said, look, what is your ambition for being manager of England? Will you win the World Cup? And if he said no, then that's it, because Sam Allardyce will be happy to get to a quarter-final. And we're not going to... And that's, for me, we've got some of the best players in the world, and it's all about the pressure that...
We haven't saying that. People keep saying that. I'm not sure it's true.
No,
not sure, Mike, but thanks very much indeed. We've got to go. We've got loads more of you who want to get on.
That's what Sam can do. He can make them look like the best players in the world because he's a great man manager.
Are you sure?
Well, we haven't got the best players in the world.
No, and he's not the best manager in the world either, so how's this going to work exactly? We'll have to talk about this a little bit more, because I think you're a bit mixed up about it here. We've got loads more coming up in the next hour. We haven't talked about Russia yet. We haven't talked yet about what else is going on. You haven't even asked me about my tennis match with my 11-year-old son.
Chris Froome we need to talk about.
Chris Froome as well. This is Talk Sport.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The two mics on Talk Sport.
I've never had an egg and I've never had a kebab. I never will.
You eat cake, don't you?
Sometimes. A bit of lemon drizzle.
Yeah, it's got egg in it.
Well, it's simulated egg.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two mics. We're in for Colin Murray all this week. Of course, Sam Allardyce has been talking in his new role as England manager. We're slightly worried that he seems to have got Jermaine Defoe's height wrong. Apparently he's even smaller than Mike Parry, which is an extraordinary state of affairs, I have to tell you. But if he can't get his height right, what else can he get right? We'll be talking about that. Also, of course, coming up in this hour, we've got heroes and villains. You'll be hearing about my epic tennis match yesterday with my 11-year-old son. And, of course, we'll be keeping you updated on the cricket as well with John Norman. You're listening to the two mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Of course, we'll be awarding £100 of a Wix voucher, won't we, later on, once you've chosen your favourite caller of the day. But it does seem to be the one thing that seems to have emerged from this press conference, aside from him saying England are not at rock bottom, is that more and more people are now tweeting us that, in fact, Jermaine Defoe is definitely not 5'10".
7.5.
And he said repeatedly, I played up front with a player who's 5'10". Jermaine Defoe, he's 5'10". I mean, he said it about 4 times.
You sure we didn't mishear that? I mean, he can't possibly have got the height of his striker.
Well, no, he definitely said 5'10". He definitely did.
Well, that's what I heard him say 3 times.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's bizarre. He is smaller than me. Jermaine Defoe is smaller than the Portmeister.
This is the thing, and loads of people are saying it's not just on Wikipedia, it's on every sort of, statistical site that you can find the height of Jermaine Defoe on.
Yep.
So you have to say that there's already questions being asked about the veracity of what Sam Allardyce has been saying this morning at the press conference. Now, coming up, we're going to do Heroes and Villains.
Yes.
And, of course, that's a sort of different version of winners and losers. At the moment,
absolutely.
We started that game when we were doing the warm-up, so we say at the moment it's 3-3.
3-3, that's absolutely right.
This could be the defining moment.
I've got some other very good news as well.
Have you?
During this show, this live show, I had an actual call from my dental surgeon asking me how it's going.
Not the show. Listening to the show.
No, not the show.
How does he think the show's going?
No, my mouth.
And how is it going?
It's going very well. I'm very pleased. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, don't you want to hear about my tennis match?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, so
it's sport, obviously.
Tennis. It is sport, yeah.
So what
well, you've often said that you played a bit of tennis in the time,
I did, yeah.
And I've often challenged you to a game. Now, I haven't played tennis for approximately 15 years.
15,
and that was one game that I had against.
So you must have been half the size then.
Well, no, I don't think. I think I might have been bigger actually. But I remember playing in North Carolina against my nephew.
Oh yes.
He also fancied himself as a bit of a tennis player, and I beat him as well.
Yeah.
But my son Oliver, who's been taking tennis lessons.
You had a nephew.
Oh yeah, I've got 2.
You got 2 nephews?
Yeah.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have. What do you mean, no, I haven't?
Well, your sister hasn't got any children.
Yeah, so?
Yeah.
So?
Well, you can't have a nephew then.
Of course you can have nephews.
Oh, I see. Your wife's brother.
Yeah, ex-wife.
Ex-wife.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, right. Okay, got it, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, never mind all that. This is about my son who's 11.
Yes.
He's been taking tennis lessons for the last couple of years, and he's quite good, actually. And he's been taunting me for the last few weeks. I've just told you he's 11.
And how tall is he? That's what I meant to say.
How tall is he?
Yeah, 'cause I was talking about Jermaine Defoe.
He's nearly the same height as Jermaine Defoe now.
Exactly.
He's getting up there. But,
absolutely, yeah. At 11, yeah.
He takes he has, private tennis lessons every Thursday night, And
does he? Private tennis lessons?
Well, you don't do them in state school, You don't learn how to play tennis in a state school.
Another thing you waste your money on, is it? Yeah.
Well, it's not wasted money because he's quite good, you see.
Well,
but
I've
never had, for a long time, I haven't had. I know you've got about 100 pairs of training shoes and sneakers and all the rest of it. I haven't had any for years, right? And he kept saying to me, "Well, you get yourself some training shoes so we can play tennis."
Yeah.
So I eventually bought a pair on Saturday.
Oh, you did? Yeah. You've got a pair of trainers now.
Well, I've got a pair of what you might
them
describe. Well, I might, if I come in shorts this week, I might wear them. Very nice. They're red, actually. I'll show you a picture of them.
Okay.
And anyway, we had a very hot day yesterday, and we'd been to the beach, and we got home, and I was getting ready to sort of relax, and he says, "Well, we're going to go and have this tennis match then." Yeah. And I said, yeah, OK then.
And where do you have to go?
Ready. We had to go to an adjoining sort of village where they've got some very nice, beautiful tennis courts.
OK,
actually.
And they were free, were they?
And they're free, and there was nobody there.
Oh, blimey.
I mean, if you go there during...
not one single other...
Not one single person. If you go there during Wimbledon week, forget it.
Yeah, exactly,
everybody's playing. But so he had a couple of decent rackets, and his younger brother came along as well.
Right.
He was the umpire and ball boy. And we had a very, very tight game. A lot of games went to juice.
Yeah.
It went 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, all the way up.
Were you playing underarm?
No.
Weren't you?
No, I was playing properly.
I'm amazed you can raise your hand over your head, to be honest.
I was amazed that, I was hitting some good serves towards the end.
And what's your boy like? Are the lessons paying off?
Yeah, they are, yeah. I mean, he was serving very, very well.
Yeah.
He didn't double fault that much. I did a bit of double faulting. But it got to...
Did you admit to it?
It got to 4-3. Well, they called a couple of my serves out, both of them, which I was a bit annoyed about.
Right.
So we had to have those played again.
Yeah.
And eventually got to 4-3, and I sort of broke him, basically.
Okay.
And I got to 5-3.
Yeah.
And then I was serving for the set. Okay. We were only playing one set.
Right.
But I was absolutely drenched in what can only be described as perspiration.
But you had the proper gear on?
Well, I had a polo shirt on.
Yeah, okay,
a pair
fine.
of shorts.
Now, as you always say to me when
I wasn't wearing whites.
As you always say to me when I'm feeding my ducks or doing something good, where are the pictures?
Yeah, I didn't take any pictures, unfortunately. I didn't
take any pictures.
But I'd be happy to take pictures because we're going to have more tennis matches coming up in the future. So
you had your 2 lads there, both of whom have a mobile phone, I assume?
No, they don't.
Don't they?
No.
Well,
one of them has a mobile phone, but it doesn't take pictures.
A mobile phone without pictures?
Yeah, he doesn't have a mobile phone.
Was this like a sort of junior mobile phone?
It's just a phone that you can use to phone
for
people.
emergencies and things, yeah.
His mother doesn't like the idea of him having an iPhone at this point. He's too young, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah. But you didn't take any pictures of yourself?
I didn't think to take any pictures of myself. I was in the midst of playing tennis. And I mean, unlike you, I'm not sort of obsessed with myself, so I didn't have my other son.
I'm not obsessed with myself.
No, you are.
No, I'm not.
You are. I mean, my son...
You're always calling for pictures.
Well,
so are the listeners.
I'm merely asked...
So I'm providing a service.
I merely ask for pictures that you can have taken of you doing things that you claim that you do.
But anyway, very commendable. You're doing a bit of physical exercise.
I thought it was great,
looking after the family. And C, you took an hour off drinking at the weekend, which is your normal occupation.
I didn't do any drinking yesterday at all.
To play with
your
sons. No, I didn't
do any drinking at all. I won 6-3.
Yeah.
And he said, do you know what he said to me?
No.
He said, I shouldn't have gone so easy on you.
Shouldn't have gone so easy. Yeah, well, I can imagine that.
And so I think he's preparing for the return match, where he's going to beat me around the court.
Yeah, it'll probably be raining next weekend. Lucky for you.
Well, we'll see.
I've put out the watch of the day.
Oh, have you? Good. Hawksby and Jacobs will be coming to you live from Wembley Stadium on Friday, 5th of August, all thanks to EE, and we'd like you to join them. We've got 30 pairs of tickets up for grabs with sweeping views across the hallowed turf. Join Paul and Andy for a fantastic food buffet and a brilliant chat.
Yes, absolutely right. They'll be joined by top guests as they look ahead to Leicester City versus Manchester United in the FA Community Shield. And to apply for tickets, head to talksport.com/competitions.
We're going to get heroes and villains coming up in a little while, but let's just remind ourselves of precisely what height Sam Allardyce thinks Jermaine Defoe is.
I played with Jermaine Defoe down the middle on his own at 5'10" last year. So the style of play that's normally associated with me cannot be really associated with me when we spent all last year playing with Jermaine Defoe up front at 5'10".
So he's 5'10".
Well, was he playing on stilts? Did he have?
I find it amazing, right?
Did he have like the Cuban heel equivalent of the football boot?
Well,
with
I mean, how can he get it so wrong? I mean, everybody's telling me now. I mean, there are a few people saying 5'6". Certainly, nobody's saying more than 1.7 metres is what it is on the Daily Telegraph website with all the facts and figures of where he was born, how much he weighs, what height he is. 5'. How can he get it up? He can't have got that wrong, surely. I mean, either everybody else is wrong and Sam Allardyce is right and he knows something that we don't know, or the one fact that he's given out about one of his players, his star player at Sunderland, who he brought in, who scored 15 goals, as he said, in the Premier League, 18 goals all season, he's 3 inches out.
Imagine if, because obviously Harry Kane's not going to take the corners anymore, we don't think, OK? So
well,
imagine if he gets
How tall does he think he is?
Well, I was about to say, imagine if he gets Ross Barkley to take the corners and he's got Defoe playing at centre forward and he says to him, now Ross, swing this over at just about 5'10", will you?
Yeah.
Because we've got Jermaine in the middle.
He's got Jermaine in the middle. He'll have to jump 3 inches for that. I find it staggering.
Absolutely.
I really do. I find it absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Now, let's have a look at your watch of the day, because you put a picture out. Now, I've had a look at it, right? Yeah. And it doesn't look like a watch to me. It looks like a clock.
It is a clock.
Well, a clock doesn't count as watch of the day.
Well, it's a timepiece, and I thought...
But it's not called timepiece of the day.
Well, I thought just to vary it a bit, because you've seen a lot of my watches. There'll be more watches to come this week, don't worry.
I think you've run out of watches.
No, I haven't. I haven't, honestly.
Why have you sent out a picture which is not, in fact, a watch?
Well, this is in my...
This is what looks like a 45 RPM record, i.e. a single record.
Yes.
It says parlophone in the middle.
That's right.
Actually, it says 33 1/3, so maybe it's is it an LP then?
It's an LP.
Oh, OK.
And it's Beatles for Sale. You can see it. It's an original.
But that's not...
no.
See, I had a mate of mine at university used to make clocks like this because you used to get picture discs.
Yes.
Remember those?
Yes.
When you would buy a single or an album, and it actually had a picture on it.
That's right, yeah, indeed,
Like I had one by Fisher Z, which was called The Worker.
Well, this is quite spectacular, because it is an original...
Well, it's not at all spectacular.
It is. It's a Beatles for Sale LP.
Yeah, but it's just plain black vinyl.
No, but it's a record, Mike. It's a Beatles for Sale LP, I promise you.
Yeah, no, I get that.
If I took that off the wall and took the fingers off it, I could put it onto a record player and play it.
The fingers?
Take the what are they called? The arms?
You mean the arms?
The arms?
No, you mean the hands.
The hands, that's right.
We had this last week.
We had this last week, yeah. But, I mean, I think that's quite spectacular. I really do, and I thought I should share it with the audience.
I'll tell you what what would be spectacular if you had a picture disc, for
Yes.
example, of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which
Yes.
would be the album cover, right, as a picture on the actual vinyl. That would be more interesting.
No, I think it's
and
brilliant.
I might even stretch to spectacular.
I think it's
but that
brilliant.
is actually the worst clock I think I've ever seen.
No, it's not. It's not. It's a brilliant clock. It's on my wall.
Does it tell the right time?
It does tell the right time. It was 4:10 yesterday afternoon when I took it.
Yeah.
And that's down at my place on the coast, where, by the way, I was out on the balcony watching our monumentally successful America's Cup team.
Well, you say that.
Yeah.
Have they won it then?
Well, they won the points tie yesterday. Yes, I do. Yes.
Well, what have they won?
Well, what they've won is they won the first race and they came runner-up in the second, which means after the results on Saturday, they've now got through to the next stage of qualifying for the final of the America's Cup.
So who did they beat then?
Who?
Who did they beat to get to the next stage?
Yesterday.
You have no idea, do you? Who was in the other boat? Any ideas?
Slovakia.
Yeah,
Slovakia.
Right.
Yeah.
You sure it wasn't a friendly against Croatia?
No. It was
friendly America. Why is Slovakia in the America's Cup?
Because there's about 16
Are
nations
they landlocked?
Compete. I'm pretty sure it's Slovakia.
Aren't Slovakia
I'll
landlocked?
just check this out. Hang on. Because there's.
Are you sure they've got any coastline?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Because it's there's about 16 teams competing this year. But I tell you what, look, it's spectacular to see those boats. They're huge structures.
You should change the subject
and
now.
No. When you see the guys going out, it's quite something to behold.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we should do heroes and
Second
villains.
consecutive year,
Yeah.
Sir Ben Ainsley, Land Rovers BR2, best crew on the Solent, claimed victory in the Portsmouth round of the Louis America's Cup World Series yesterday.
The Louis America's Cup.
Yeah, the Louis Vuitton
America's
Cup.
Yeah.
And
who'd they beat?
Who do they beat?
Yeah.
You don't actually beat anybody. What you do is...
Oh, I see.
You,
so what, you just got to go out on your own, and if you don't capsize, you get the America's Cup?
Well, what happened was we had to finish 3 places ahead of the other team.
Yeah.
And,
who was?
Well, that's a bit of a mystery, this, actually.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Because I'm not sure.
Well, it is to anyone who doesn't know anything about it.
I saw a boat coming in after theirs came in, and I'm sure it said Slovakia on it. But anyway, look, we'll get to the bottom of this one.
I'm sure that's where it was made.
Yes.
Let's do heroes and villains. Now, unlike winners and losers, right, this is not voted on by the general public, which means that your Porky tribe can't gerrymander the result.
Yeah, okay.
Instead, what we've done is trust in our producer, who is, of course, Izzy, and she will be the one who decides whether my heroes and villains are better than yours.
Okay.
Are you ready to go with your heroes? Or would you like me to go first?
You go first.
I'll go first.
Yes.
My first hero is a man by the name of Fedor Konyukov. Right. Now, he's a man who just a few weeks ago we revealed was taken off from Western Australia in a hot air balloon, hoping to go around the world.
That old nutter from Russia.
And you regarded it, that's exactly how you referred to him, right? Now, it turns out that he's actually now set a new record for flying solo, non-stop around the world.
That's
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. In 11 days, he beat the previous record of 13 days and 8 hours, which was set by Steve Fossett.
Yeah.
That guy, the American balloonist, who was one of the greatest balloonists of all time.
Yeah, but does anybody care about this?
Well, it's
this
a
Rasputin type figure who took off in
he
a
does
balloon
look a bit
from
like,
Australia.
He does look a bit
and then
like
landed
Rasputin.
Again.
He flew as high as 10,000 metres, right?
Wow.
In his 56-metre tall helium and hot air balloon. You could have powered that yourself.
That's spectacular.
And he had to deal with temperatures as low as minus 56.
Oh, that's terrible.
So
Were there
what I'm
millions of
saying-
people there watching him land?
No, there weren't, because nobody knew where he was.
No,
but the fact remains that he is a record holder, he is a pioneer, and a fantastic figure.
Yeah.
And I think that basically you should apologise for saying that he was an old Russian nutter.
Well, I'm sorry.
So he's
but
my
I mean-
first hero. Who's your first hero, then?
My first hero is, and it's just got to be Chris Froome. I'm sorry, but I mean, I know that sounds... Well, of course it's obvious, but this guy has won it 3 times, right? He's not a knight of the realm. Bradley Wiggins is Sir Bradley Wiggins. He's a knight of the realm.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to... Well, he has disappeared off the scene since his first victory because Chris Froome was designated as lead rider for the Sky team who've won it the next year.
Yes.
And he's won it 3 out of 4 years since then. Spectacular. It's not just that he's won it for the, yesterday. He's won it for the 3rd time. He's an outstanding British sportsman. There can't be a more fitting winner.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hero.
You mean hero. My
Hero.
first villain of the weekend are the French border guards at Dover.
Right.
These are the people who created a massive
Yes.
traffic jam.
Yeah,
There were people
I like
sitting
that.
in their cars for 12 hours.
I
right?
like that,
And
yeah.
this is not because of any Brexit-related nonsense.
Sure.
It's basically because they got 7 booths to take all the cars through.
Sure.
And they only had enough people to work on 3 of them.
Sure.
And people were absolutely flabbergasted that they'd get onto the M20 and have to sit there, as I say, for anywhere between 5 and 12 hours. So that's my first villain.
Okay.
Who's your first villain?
My first villain is Thomas Bach.
Oh, yeah.
And Thomas Bach, who has the same name as the famous composer, Bach.
Bach.
Okay, yeah. Except his is
not
pronounced as Bach.
Bach.
No, his is pronounced as Bach
Okay.
because I don't know why.
Time, by the
It
way.
is.
You don't know why.
Anyway, he's the president of the IOC. He is the man who decided that Russia as a nation will not be expelled from the games in Brazil, despite overwhelming evidence that there is something very, very nefarious about the state of the Russian Olympic team overall.
Yeah.
And when you see him pictured with Vladimir Putin sharing a glass of champagne at the Winter Olympics in Sochi, you have to say to yourself, that is a very, very bad decision.
Right.
He is a villain.
Okay, my second... We've got to do this very quickly now.
Yeah.
We've got 20 seconds each. My second hero is Steve Bruce, who's decided to leave Hull City in order to save the club.
Okay.
I've never heard that before.
Okay.
I've never heard of a manager actually, throwing himself on the fire, as it were, to make sure the club survives.
I think there's a bit of irony about that one.
Well, there may well be,
Okay.
but I'm saying he's a hero for doing that, and the whole fan should think of him as that.
Okay.
We're not sure quite what's going to happen next.
Okay.
And then my final villain, very, very quickly, has to be Philip Green. The man with the biggest boat in the world, who's now been blamed for bankrupting BHS.
Yes, absolutely. My second hero, Neil Costis, Northern correspondent of The Sun, who came on after I slagged him off on Twitter.
That's not going to help you.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And my second villain was going to be Sir Philip Green, because you got first choice on heroes.
Yeah.
I should have had first choice on villains, but you didn't give it me. So it's going to have to be Nico Rosberg for failing to get round the first bend when he had pole position in the Grand Prix that could have kept him at the top of the F1
doesn't
table.
make him a villain, really, does it?
It does make him a villain because he's conceded now to Lewis Hamilton, a British hero.
Well, Izzy will make the judgment on this, and she'll tell us a little bit.
Good girl, Izzy. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Don't try and bribe her.
Intelligent.
Okay? Don't try and bribe her. That's what your usual trick is.
Massive understanding of these issues.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. Now, every day this week, Mr. Parry, we're giving away a £100 Wix gift card to the best caller of the day. You've made your final decision, and you have picked Mike, who's a fan of
Manchester United.
Manchester United as the winner.
As the winner, definitely today. And actually, he didn't agree with anything that you and I have said.
No.
He was totally going, oh, Sam's, no good. He's
So
a
you
loser
called
and
him
all
Fred
that.
Flintstone, didn't he?
Fred Flintstone. I said, does that make Sammy Lee Barney Rubble? And he found that very funny. That's probably one of the reasons why I've nominated him. But no, he was expansive and well read and well thought out caller.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mike, the Manchester United fan, you are the winner of the £100 Wix gift card today. There'll be another one tomorrow, of course, and all the rest of the week too. Now, a couple of people have been still going on about Jermaine Defoe's height. The guy, Scottish Bully, says this: if Defoe is 5'10", then Porky is 6'5", which is extraordinary. Maybe Jermaine Defoe plays in Porky's Cuban heels, says Wardy.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Which is a bit harsh.
Yeah.
And Russ says, can Porky point out to the listening masses just where Slovakia's coastline is? And you'll see that there's a map there which highlights the red of Slovakia, which appears entirely landlocked.
Yeah.
So the fact they're in the America's Cup is a massive triumph for them. It's tremendous for them.
The team that Sir Ben Ainsley was competing against yesterday, in fact, American, right?
Oh,
they
Americans.
were the ones in the Solent.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
they
what
were
I thought. It
Americans.
was always between America and Britain.
Well,
and,
it's not
and
because
Australia and those kind of countries.
Australia, New Zealand, all these sort of countries. It was against the Americans. The reason I thought it was Slovakia is because the top of the mast that on the boat that what's this?
Excuse me. I've just been handed a piece of paper.
Who by?
I have with me a piece of paper.
Yes.
What was that Chamberlain thing that you said?
Yes.
This has come from Izzy, our producer.
Yeah, she's the one making the decision.
And it says on the front, heroes and villains.
Oh, the winner is...
The winner is... I might get you to read this out.
Okay, open it
go
up.
on, why don't you read it out?
Okay, and the winner is, as I open it, it's like the Oscars, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
I'm not reading that out.
Says Mike Graham, doesn't it?
Says Mike Graham.
Yeah.
And he says... Porky lost it when he called Neil Custis a hero.
Yeah, I think that's probably
But
right.
I thought that was the most magnanimous decision I've made all day.
What?
Magnanimous.
Magnanimous?
Yeah.
You mean magnanimous? Magnanimous.
Magnanimous. And
I think your teeth are played up.
And I thought that I
the
should
robo-tooth.
I thought I should have been given credit for that.
Now, I think I should tell...
before we move on.
Go on. Then you want to congratulate me for winning.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Sorry, that's my tooth problem.
Yeah, that makes it 4-3 to me, by the way.
May I just ask one question, please? And this is straight yes or no.
Yes.
The decision was made by Izzy, our producer.
Yes, that's correct.
Did you buy Izzy a number of alcoholic drinks after the show last Friday?
No.
Did you buy Izzy one alcoholic drink?
I did buy her a drink on Friday, yes.
Right. How big was this drink?
I can't remember what she had. She had a gin and tonic, I think. In the company of several other senior members of the TalkSport production staff.
I will leave it to our millions of listeners to put what interpretation they would like on that gerrymandering act.
Not everybody operates like you do. Here's a good one from Sky Blue Mark, who's tweeted at the two Mikes. He says, I reckon Mike Parry is the Boris Johnson of radio. Intelligent chap who comes across as a bumbling fool.
Well, you see, I've got a good cover for all that, you know what I mean?
Now, later this afternoon, you're going to be involved in some kind of media event. I just want to ask you about this because I was approached last week by somebody from what can only be described as another broadcasting organisation
a TV
to ask
station.
me if I might be willing to be interviewed for the end of Fleet Street, basically.
That's
right.
Finally,
the final few journalists that were still left working
physically
in Fleet Street EC4 from a Scottish newspaper have been made redundant, right?
That's
so
right.
now there's no more journalists in Fleet Street.
That's right.
This woman contacted me and said it would be great to hear from you, perhaps, or Mr. Parry, about the halcyon days of Fleet Street.
Right, yeah.
Now, in the course of the last few hours or days, I'd said to her, she'd offered me a couple of opportunities to come and see her, possibly Monday, possibly Tuesday.
Great.
And I said, I have to consult with my broadcasting partner, Mr. Parry.
Yes.
And, we'll see what we can arrange. Now, would you like to explain what happened after that?
Well, I was in touch with the young lady. She's a female producer, and she said, could you tell me about your history in Fleet Street? So I explained that I was the last news editor ever to work in what's known as the Black Lubyanka, the famous Express building, listed building made of black glass.
Yes.
And I explained that I'd spent my formative years there, that I'd walked the streets of Fleet Street when ink lorries used to dispense ink
at some
down
point
the drains.
Probably crawled along them as well.
I certainly
Your hands
have.
and knees.
How the paper lorries used to come in and the bales of paper were loaded into the presses, and how at 7 o'clock at night, when you were in the Popinjay pub, suddenly the building would rumble, and that meant the presses had just started up and they were starting to run off the first editions.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, you're just exactly what we need. This is absolutely perfect. No, please." And I said, "Okay. And so, what time do you want us to come and see you tomorrow?" And she said, "Oh, could you tell the other Mike that we don't need him now, thank you. What you've got is perfect."
Is that
so
right?
That was as simple as that.
So you're going off to do it on your own?
Well, yeah, I am. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, but I mean, that was her
astonishing,
choice.
isn't it? I mean, you are so kind of greedy for publicity for yourself.
No, that was her choice,
not
mine.
You expect me to believe that?
I actually fought for you.
Surely,
I fought for you. I said, well,
Mike,
he has done a bit, did a bit, and she said, "Oh, who did he work for on Fleet Street?" I said, I think he was just a bit of a sort of casual, did the odd shift here and there, and for some unknown reason, they didn't want you.
Well, how about me just reading out my exchange with Ms. Ball, which is, of course, her name. Hi, Mike. I'm looking for old tales of Fleet Street for a BBC London report. Is Tuesday any good? 30 minutes of your time in Elvino's. Which I said, well, not a problem, but I need to check with the other Mike if you need us both.
Yes.
And she said it would be great to have you both if possible. If you could check with him, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then some hours later, in fact, a couple of days later, hi, Mike. I spoke with Mike Parry earlier. He's able to fit in an interview tomorrow, which fits my schedule, so no need for you to come on Tuesday. Hope that's okay. Thanks for your help. I mean, it's just incredible.
Sorry about that.
You basically stitched me up over this.
No.
Yeah, you have.
No, you just got
blown
out.
The weird thing that happened, though, is after I said, OK, Rod, I said, I may be there anyway, you never know. She then sent me, these emojis, right?
Yes.
She sent me a heart emoji, which is not normally the sort of thing you expect.
Thank you.
Well, normally you don't get that from somebody unless, they're romantically interested in you.
Yeah.
And then she went, "Oh, sorry, emoji misfire," and tried to apologise for it. So I'm not quite sure what to make of it, really.
Absolutely.
I'm not accustomed to getting those kind of messages from women that I don't know.
Maybe it was the curse of the dead fox.
It could have been, yeah. Still don't know what happened to the fox. Very weird, though, isn't it?
Very odd
very
indeed.
strange.
Yeah.
So, enjoy yourself this afternoon.
Yes, I will, don't worry.
Do give her my best.
Yeah, of course I will.
Whatever anything that she needs in the future.
Yeah.
She knows who to call.
Yeah,
and it won't be me.
Yeah,
because I won't be helping her out anymore.
No, that's right.
I've had enough of it.
I don't think she'd be calling on you anymore.
Now, the other thing I should tell you is that we're sorting out our Edinburgh's accommodation.
Yes.
I've got one flat organised for myself and my daughter. I'm going to get one organised for you as well.
Thank you. So far, you put me in a windowless room.
Well, I put you in a room with no window.
That's
because
right,
I just thought it'd be funny.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I don't think find it.
You've now rejected that.
I have rejected it.
And you told me you don't want that room with no window, even though it took me several hours to find any colour room.
Spend a few more hours and find somewhere decent.
All right. So, how do you find you? I mean, how many rooms would you like?
I'd like. I want a studio flat, please.
A studio flat?
Yeah.
Does it need to have a locked room in it?
No, it doesn't need a locked room. Just needs to be hospitable and civilised.
Okay.
Plenty of TV.
Would you like
options.
a view of anything in particular?
Yeah, Leith Docks, please.
Leith Docks.
Yeah, and in particular the Royal Yacht.
No, the Royal Yacht,
which
Britannia.
is birthed there in my.
That's down at Ocean
memory.
Terminal, I think. Isn't it?
Okay.
Well, you don't want to be that far away, though.
Sorry?
You don't want to be that far away.
Well, I want to be away from far from the madding crowd because we've got 3 shows at the festival.
The Assembly, yeah.
11 o'clock at night each.
Yeah.
I expect that into the early hours we'll be discussing the outcome of the shows.
Well.
So I want somewhere that's far from the madding crowd.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we'll see what we can do.
Who wrote that, by the way?
Far from the madding crowd, Thomas Hardy.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And who
Have
starred
you
in the
read it?
film? Who starred in the film?
What do you mean who starred in the film?
Who starred in the film?
Well, there was 2 films. There was one more recently than
Terence
the one
Stamp
before.
in the original
one. It was
one.
Terence Stamp and Julie Christie,
That's
wasn't
right,
it?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Julie Christie, brilliant, yeah. I must tell you that Peter Torrey story one of those days
Okay.
when we have enough time. But we're out of time now.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.